Then you should be welcome to the 215th episode of podcast Juventus Club Svezia, and this time I have Alberto from AGC Podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. For an absolute pleasure. We get a ton of support and love out of Sweden too, so I'm excited to do this. I've seen you around a lot on social media, on Twitter, and everything like that, and a lot of engagement and whatnot. So I was very, very happy and excited to have you reach out and ask me to come on, and I'd hope that we can repay the favor and have you on our side at some point as well.
Yeah, of course, of course. I have Omer from your podcast the week before, and I have Beppe Bognosi from the Juventus Twitter a few weeks ago, and he told me the same about the Swedish audience. It's big on your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of love and support, and it's great. So I'm very happy to be here and look forward to this discussion, man. Chatting about our beloved old lady, and never a shortage of topics to discuss around Juventus. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was the same with Omer. We could talk for hours, but I have a podcast about an hour, so we can put this together another time too. So, but with a new guest, I always start with why Juventus for you.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple story for me. It is definitely from my father. So over here in Western Canada, it was very difficult to watch some of the games and whatnot, but he always found a way. And my dad, he still has them to this day, VHS tapes of like every single game, like through the 90s. It's insane, but he watched them all and recorded them all, found a way. And whenever the games fell on the 3:30 a.m. time slot for us, you would hear him yelling in the living room, whatnot. And one day I decided I got to find out what's going on out
Yeah.
here. So I get up and I walk out there and, sat down to, Baggio, Vialli, Ravanelli, and my dad's so into this. And I just got right into it right there next to him. So that's how it all started. And from there, it just grew and grew and grew into what I am today. Now, obviously, running my own podcast about the team, covering it, and proudly associated with the Juventus official fan clubs of North America, which I would have never thought in a small town in Western Canada
Yeah.
ever having that type of position. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, and then talking about the North American side of the world, what's we talk a lot about soccer in your country. We talk about football here. How big is it, the European football in Canada?
It's growing. It's getting bigger. It's starting to get more of a limelight shone on it. But the toughest thing over here is that the major TV production outlets are so focused on the big four for North America that it doesn't get a lot of that highlight. So people really, if you want to get into it, you want to look into it, you have to find your YouTubes. You have to find your alternate sources of television through streams and streaming sites and everything to get the full-on access and full-on experience. But it is growing. And the players moving over playing for MLS has played a big part in it, because it's getting people wondering like, oh, what team did he come from and where did they play? And then from there, they start to find out. And you got young guys asking like Champions League, and it's like, yeah, like Champions League is, that's the best of the best in Europe, etc. And they go from there. So it is growing for sure, quite a bit. And those players coming over is a big deal, and it plays a lot. I laughed about it because in the small town I'm from, I think I've seen a handful of Juventus jerseys probably like ever outside of, me and my friend. When Ronaldo signed, I saw Juventus jerseys everywhere in this town. I'm like, just like that, so it's changing, and a lot of that has to do with it, right? So
Yeah, you talk about players who moving over. We see like Giovinco a few years back, and now Bernadeschi and Insigne and such. Do they play a big part of Americans or Canadian audience looking at the European football?
Yeah, they do because it gets people, like I said, asking. So they want to know like where did they come from? Like Jovinko was just massive for
Yeah,
TFC when he came over, and obviously guided them to the trophies and everything. And he's also playing a part with the Juventus academies because the Juventus has academies scattered
yeah,
across North America. And he plays a part with that over there in Toronto and whatnot. So again, it's growing more awareness also for Juventus as a brand. And these guys, yeah, they play a big part. Bernardeschi just a couple of weeks ago was playing in Vancouver, and he stopped by and spent time with the official fan club in
yeah.
Vancouver, signing autographs, meeting them. And Chiellini did the same when he was playing with LAFC. So they're separated, but they're still very much waving the flag for the black and white, and it is bringing awareness to Juventus as well. So it's nice that those players are doing that, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we see like Alessandro Del Piero, who's lived in LA for a few years, and we see, I think it was Barzagli was in Miami a few weeks ago, do the same with the academy. So I think like you said, it's growing. And if we're talking about Andrea Angeli and the heritage he left, he was more like Americanization of Juventus. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, I would
growing.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
What do you think about the almost 11, 12 years under Andrea Angeli's?
There was far too much good to let how things end kind of really affect me overall. My feelings will always be of a lot of respect and credit to his part and admiration really and love. He was the guy, the leader, and way too much good came out of it. A decade of dominance that we'll probably never see again. I hope to, God, I hope so. But it's crazy what we did. And when you have to stop and think about that, and 9 titles in
Yeah,
a row,
yeah,
it's insane. 2 Champions League finals through there. Obviously, our run in finals is something that will one day break. Like
yeah,
we have to just get over that. But there's far too much good. The creation of Juventus Next Gen, which is massive and has really saved us. So while everyone can say, obviously, I do believe there was a shift in focus and there was a lot of confusion towards the end that led to probably one of the most pivotal moments for us, which was losing Beppe Marotta.
yeah,
And then from there, it seemed very scattered. But ultimately, this guy, a new stadium, decade of dominance, always did everything to put Juventus further ahead and whatnot. And yeah, it may have gone a little sideways at the end, but I will always have respect and admiration for everything he brought because it was one of the best times ever
yeah,
at the club.
yeah.
So
And talking about the leaders, his cousin John Elkann isn't the boss of Juventus, but the boss of Exor. Do you think he's still like this is the family company now under Elkann?
it doesn't have that feel. It doesn't have that feel. And that's only because Elkin's not the guy like in the chair to run the football operation. And that's never been his thing.
No.
And, he's got so much going on with all the other, components under the umbrella of Exor that Juventus is actually like financially a very, very small piece
Yeah.
of that puzzle. So for him, it's getting the guys for him that he trusts in there and whatnot. But yeah, it's not going to have that same feel because he's always been a figure from a distance. But there are a lot of rumors swirling around what he's going to do with Juventus as an entity and everything like that. But in the end, I really don't see us selling or anything like that. And I do feel that it's still close to him and everything, and he will always keep it. Maybe there's a partnership, someone coming in, and some outside money. Like I could see that happening. But yeah, in terms of the connection, it won't have that connection with and that Andrea Agnelli carried with it. It's a different position and figure, right?
Yeah, and I'm talking about the extension of the sponsor. We got Jeep for like 5 years, and I read a report just before we record this that we could make an annual deal with Jeep again, and like 45 million euros, like when we played in Champions League. Are you satisfied with that, or do you want a bigger sponsor with bigger money?
Obviously, yeah, whatever we can get, that's the best for us. I'm fine with it. For me, whoever's on the shirt, it is what it is, but it's got to be best for the club. So if we get the best deal from Jeep, then we carry on.
Yeah.
But if we can find something that helps us more and potentially long term, because that would be the trade-off. If it's 1 year with Jeep at that money, but if it's maybe makes more sense to get into something that has a flexibility, maybe after a couple of years or whatnot, that's more long term, that could become a little bit more lucrative, say with some incentives, then I'd probably look at that route. So yeah, I from everything I gather, it's Scanavino and Calvo that are the two dealing on the sponsorship for Elkan.
Yeah. The CEO and CFO.
Essentially. So yeah, right now they're all hands on deck, and it's those two looking at all the possibilities for sponsorship. So the fan in me, is kind of curious because I'm a kit collector and I'd love to see something that's sharp and whatnot, but ultimately it's whatever's best for the club. So.
Yeah, and talking about the shirt, you have seen the 3 potential shirts for next season. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually leaked the concepts of them a while back and worked with La Maglia Bianconera on creating the first original concepts. But the home, I like it. It reminds me of a little bit of 97, 98.
Yep.
It kind of gives me those vibes. I really like the home kit. I think sometimes, it really is going to matter on the sponsorship, because the thicker the stripes get, the funny the sponsor could look.
Yeah.
That's why I've always naturally preferred the thinner stripes on kits, but I like it. I think it's good. The third has the potential to be an all-timer, the black with the old school crest there and the trefoil Adidas logo. That's going to be a stunner. The away one is questionable, but the more leaks that come out from it, is starting to kind of look a little bit better, but I think it's one of those we won't really know until we get it full effect. But so far the leaks have been underwhelming. But as a kit collector, I'm going to get them all anyways, and then we'll go from there. I have some already that sit in that closet that don't get much, that don't get worn much, like that orange and black thing from a couple of years back. That's the way she goes.
Yeah. And talk about the you mentioned Beppe Marotta. We got Marotta and Paratici from Sampdoria, so it was a duo. Then we get rid of Marotta and promote Paratici, and that didn't go that well. We have Cherubini at the position. Now we got Giuntoli for almost a year. What do you think Giuntoli could bring for us in the future?
I think the biggest thing is a model that makes sense, I think, for where we're at now. And we're starting to see that he's not going to just give in to the standard demands that are kind of going around in Italy. He's willing to just go elsewhere right off the cuff like he did with Alcaraz. It was nice hearing about the fact that he offered Felipe Anderson, even though it fell through, just over 3 million euros in salary because of his age and everything like that, and didn't want to give in to 4 mil a season and everything. So there are signs there that he's not just going to budge. We also have Arsenal talking about how difficult he was to deal with back from when he was with Napoli and whatnot. So it's promising. It feels like we're going to have a bit of a spine about ourselves with him in that role. And we've been talking about this a lot lately with him, is we like the unknown. We like the fact that, you know what? You don't know what he's going to do, but I kind of just like that. It's almost like a breath of fresh air. Like, let's see what happens and everything. Right now, there are some that are judging maybe a little bit too much because maybe the time frame is that of a year, but it's been anything but a standard year. There's still so much cleanup to be done about when we lost track towards the end with the last regime. And I'm going to start judging him when he has his team assembled. We don't even know who his coach is. Yep. And we don't even know where he stands on that, right? There may or may not be a change there. All signs are pointing to there will be a change there, but let's wait till he actually puts something that's his together and then probably judge accordingly. But overall, there are some signs there that I really like from Juntali.
And talking about that, I nagging about this in my podcast, the restart of the club. You got Angeli and Nedved and Arevebene and everyone away. You got Ferrero, Scanavino, Elkan hovering over. Now we got Juntali, we got Claudio Chiellini back in the next gen team as sporting director. We have a restart in almost every position, but not the coach. You mentioned everything is pointing to a new coach, but when we got this with Ronaldo yesterday, we have to pay almost 10 million euros. Do you think Allegri is going to stay the last year of the contract?
I don't think so. I don't think so for a number of reasons, some that even stretch beyond the play. Last season, they were looking at a coaching change.
Yeah.
And that was highly talked about, covered. We've heard it from top guys, and the interviews were happening. And from the information I gathered, it went to literally a vote in which it was in favor of keeping due to the finances.
Yeah.
So now it is a little bit easier to achieve. It's still going to set us back, and it's still going to be tough to deal with and whatnot. But again, top guys talking about all these meetings, and you have so many potential candidates available at this point in time, more so than you did last season, stronger candidates than you did last season, which leads me to believe, and the fact that you're getting the breakup of that group that was around, which I think was hung on to the last bit of cleanup before now the shift is going for Juntali. So now he's going to get his staff coming in with him. And I think with that, we will get a coach he appoints. So I just think there's way too much smoke for there not to be fire. And I think a change will come. I think Juntali, this is going to be a big step in moving and getting a insight finally into what his actual vision is moving forward.
And talking about that topic, as you mentioned, it's Juntali's coach. They are still talking about Antonio Conte. Then we go back. So do you think it's going to be Conte?
I feel like Motta's getting thrown out there so much that it might not be him.
Oh,
and Conte, I heard from my sources, etc., that his wife, who runs a boutique there, as they're now all in Turin, has been very, very vocal with the people there that he wants to return to the bench. And I believed, and I've been saying for a long time, I feel like he's not making a decision on any other spot because he's waiting for that chair to come down. I know that Romeo Gäst, he says 0% chance. I know that they're saying there's been no calls there, etc., but I'm not buying it. I think he is waiting 100%. And the reason I'm not buying it is because when Juventus had that alumni game and you had all the legends there and Conte was a part of it and everything, all those guys that were a part of that are all saying the same thing, and they're like, Conte would jump at the opportunity to return. And I can't separate that from my mind, and the fact that Napoli heavily approached him. He could have went there. That was at the time a season that you could turn around, and they were reigning champions and everything. And I'm like, he is waiting for me, in my mind, 100% to return.
And that's the coach of your choice.
I personally, I'm getting PTSD from returns, my friend. Players, and now we're talking about coach. But if we're being honest, I do consider him an elite coach. I really do, and I think he has to be considered, because you know what you're going to get with him every single time, and that is 100% like dedication and commitment, fire and passion to what he wants to achieve. The instant stimulus he brings, it's electric. It fizzles out very, very fast, though, and that's the thing. So are we better off to go that road, try that for a couple of years, even though you know it might blow up?
Yeah.
But would you be in an okay place to move on from there forward? A lot of people see him as the builder and then bringing in someone else. But I don't know. Can he do it in a second stint with a club? Are we too young for Conte? And would this new generation of players deal with his demands and the fire and stuff as well as the older guard did? I don't know. It's a really, really tough call, but he definitely has to be in the mix, but something would have to give financially, because that's the biggest thing too, is if we're making the change, we're paying the money. Because just to clean up, just to get rid of the guy currently in the chair. And now all of a sudden you're going to go to a big money guy again. I don't know. That's why I feel like maybe, it is a Motta, or again, maybe somebody completely out of left field, that we're not expecting, that is less expensive. It's tough.
Yeah, and here in Sweden we call it kort brinted, short burning time for a coach, and Conte is the example for everyone. 2-3 years of a stint, and then he's gone. And the tradition in Juventus, we see Trapattoni for a lot of years, then he left, and then we have like 3 coaches. Trapattoni is back, the same with Lippi, now the same with Allegri. Do we do it again with Antonio Conte?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Again, it's that unknown with Giuntoli.
Yeah.
But we've always heard that, we've always known Calvo and Conte are close. And Giuntoli and Conte are actually close as well. And it's another reason why I've always felt like he's waiting. It's like it's his guys are around. Andrea Agnelli's no longer a part of the club, in which he and Conte had some issues there. It's just you can't really erase those signs, and I think it is a potential possibility for sure that we see him return. It can't be ruled out, and at this point, it's kind of how I feel with everything with Giuntoli. I'm not ruling anything out, because we have no idea.
No.
We have no idea, so we're going in blind. And actually, like I said, it's kind of refreshing, having that unknown. Let's see what he conjures up. But is Conte my first pick? No, he's not my first pick. Motta is my first pick, personally.
Yeah. What's the thrill about Thiago Motta?
For me, I have about 4 or 5 reasons why I would do it. Number one is in terms of environment and atmosphere, he has played for big clubs. He will be very, very well accustomed to that big club atmosphere and everything. So I don't think anything like that should be a concern, especially even coaching in Champions League as opposed to just the one league, whatnot. No, he's going to be, as a player, and I know it's different from player to coaching, whatnot, but I still see a lot in his coaching that is going to pay dividends for us. And a couple of those are, if you're thinking about multiple competitions, well, you're going to have to be flexible, in which he has shown he has. He's played 3 formations with Bologna. He settled on 2 this season, and those 2 he rotates based on the personnel that he plays.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing that I look at. He's obviously doing well with a younger squad, a squad that has a salary, I'm pretty sure, of 32 million across their entire roster. The other thing is that from a game perspective, you can visibly see when you watch Bologna play what he's trying to do in a game plan. So when he's trying to get wide, he does that and he shuts down. He did it against us. He got his team width sorted out and rendered us, pretty much neutralized us. And that's kind of the blueprint to beat us. And that's why the lack of flexibility is frustrating from Allegri in my perspective. But you see Motta's game plans come out versus the opponent that he plays. I think he's very well balanced. He focuses on the defense, but he's very in tune with what they need to do offensively to hurt the teams they're playing as well. So very balanced, flexible. And I think one of the strong points about Conte that everybody likes is that fire. But I don't think anybody talks about it with Motta enough, that guy is a fiery individual.
Yeah.
And I think as a motivator and everything, he has that element too. We've seen it as a player, and we've also seen it as a coach. I just don't think anybody's paying attention to it to the level of Conte, because Conte has been like to the point where he's been on a highlight reel for just his blow-ups, right? So yeah, there's a fiery individual there as well. Those are all the points I would make for just Motta. And in general, I feel like it's a guy that you could jump on now and beat teams to the punch. That might be a real long-term asset. Sure, it may not work out, but you might have a guy for five years if it goes right, 6 years if he gets it right. So I would lean to Motta being my first choice right now.
We have another name that been mentioned before, our old player Raffaele Palladino. What do you think about him?
I think too soon before he's in the mix. I need to see a little bit more. I might need to see a step away from Monza, to be honest. And there's going to be opportunities there, and maybe like a Fiorentina side would go a long way in seeing more from Palladino, because he's done well with the young players of Monza, but I need to see a little more separation with maybe a little more quality at his disposal just to really truly gauge. But there are some indicators there that he could be a top coach at one point. But there's many guys that I don't think are quite there yet and missing some of those things. So some of the things that I've said about Motta, I can't apply to Palladino. And that's why, because I don't want people to feel like maybe, it's just because Motta's trending now. No, there's quite a bit in that package that we've seen with Motta. And Motta has worked out a lot of the kinks in himself as a coach. I mean, dating back to PSG with their academy, to Spezia, where we saw one of the wildest formations I've ever seen in my life. He's worked out the kinks.
Yeah.
And he's found kind of where he's at. I still think Palladino is under that kind of umbrella where he's got to work out some more kinks.
Yeah, with here in Sweden we talk about Roberto Di Cerbi when he was in Italy, then he went to Ukraine and then to England, and then you have from Spezia the Vincenzo Italiano who went to Fiorentina. What do you think about his steps up to maybe take Juventus in the future?
Italiano showed me a lot more this season than he has previously, where everybody was all around this offensive prowess and everything, and I wasn't really completely sold on Italiano. But this season, when his scoring has kind of just really fizzled away, he's shown me a lot in adapting the team and really getting behind like more elements to the game and defending and creating this solid structure and building from there. And yeah, now he kind of has another feather in his cap that he can be flexible, he can adapt, and get his team to adapt and still find results and everything. So he's shown me a lot more this season, but Italiano's always still been, for me, not quite there or ready for me to say yes to. De Cherby's always been a no for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people are just like, man, I really want De Cherby. He's always been a no for me, and the reason is because Italiano showed me, I put them as the same, and now Italiano showed me different this season, but De Cherby for me is a guy that I feel like would rather lose 7-1 than change what his actual philosophy is or adapt even in the least bit. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see it working for Juventus.
No.
You just have to be able to do that. And just the game in general, you have to be able to do it. I mean, De Cherby's squads concede 50 to 60 goals a season everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. I mean, it's great that it's pretty to watch when it works, but you get blown up here and there. And ultimately, his results and what he's done with clubs and brought them to, that's great. But is it at that level? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is.
It's almost like a modern version of Zdenek Zeman.
Yeah, it's it's just there's elements there that make me not comfortable with De Cherby until I see it,
The last name, and I don't think he's coming to us, just not now, Siso.
Oh. Let's get it right with Motta, keep working on the roster, and then bring Zizou when we hit our peak. Oh man, that would be something. One of my favorite footballers ever. Yeah. And to have him back would be unbelievable, but it has to be the right time, and I don't think we're there yet. But man, if you could build something up, get the finances right, start getting players, and then get your accounts right, the draw that it would be to have him at the bench and the players that you could pull that would want to play, not just for Juventus, but under a Zidane-led Juventus, that's a dream one day, man, that I hope we get to.
Yeah, because but talking about him, he's done what he's done with Real Madrid. He was there as a player. He has the Castilla team. He was assistant in the first team. And now he has done what he's done with Real Madrid. If he would come to Juventus now, you don't have a team full of world-class players and a complete team. So now it's not the time for him to come back.
No, and I kind of put him in the same box, so to speak, as Allegri. And I think why Allegri is suffering is because they're more of a man-manager type thing. That Real Madrid side, they didn't need coaching with that roster. Yeah. I could have stepped there on the sidelines with that team. They don't need coaching, and that's why I say it's just not the right time. I see him very, very similar to Max in the sense that these players will have a freedom. It's more a mentality. It's more of an approach type thing with Zidane.
Yeah.
And it's very much kind of like Ancelotti and what we're seeing now with Real Madrid. And I mean, Jude Bellingham just gave us great insight into that, saying that there's no passing set, whatever. It's like we're off the cuff, like we have freedom. And when you have a caliber of player, you can do that. And we're not there yet. That's why, like, for now, it's a no to Zidane because I don't think we would be equipping him with what he needs. And it would just solely be allure. But I don't think it's right now. I think with the group that we have, it's clear they don't need a man manager. I think they need a coach. They need something simplified that is set as structurally and whatnot, because I just don't think they're at the caliber to control or pull over the qualities there. It's a very much young side with, I'd say, a lack of leadership as well in general.
Yeah.
That is just, we're in a building phase. We're in a building phase. It's exactly that. And we could use some quality. And for me, the midfield is specifically where I would like to see some serious advancements being made.
And before we get into the Calcio Mercato, we're talking about Max Allegri. 5 years of great success, now 3 years of non-success. What's your opinion of the 3 last years under Allegri?
It's been just a mess. It really, really has. The first year we wiped the slate clean because he just came back. We lost Ronaldo. There was just a lot, 342 million in debt, by the way.
Yeah.
Then you get the second season and it was a very, very poor start. And then you get the points debacle and all that nonsense. And then you get a Mercato where you only add like Cambiaso, Caviglia, Weah. And it's like, okay. And the first half of the season goes really well in terms of results, but you could still see we need to push just a little bit more. And the wheels came off the wagon. Overall, I still say that he was the right guy for this past 3 years due to the circumstances, because I think if it wasn't him, we probably would have gone through like 4 to 5 coaches, because I don't think anybody would have stayed through those circumstances, especially when the board got depleted and he was the face facing something that he had nothing to do with day in, day out. So I actually thank him, but I do feel it is time for a change. But looking back, I think in this turmoil, I don't think any other manager would have toughed it out and stayed, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Talking about the icons of the club, we saw Paolo Maldini went back to AC Milan. We are still talking about Del Piero. We are talking about Chiellini. Buffon went to the national team, but to put back a legend in the club, what position do you think like Del Piero could have or Chiellini could have?
Yeah, I think so. Chiellini has a master in business and everything like that, and you know he could probably be a little bit more involved in everything. But for the majority, I think bringing back the culture to this club is what is of the most importance of having those type of characters around, because it does kind of feel like, in a sense, we've lost ourselves and who we are and who we were. And we talk about that family kind of feeling and those vibes that we had before, and they're kind of seemingly gone. But these players, like, you need to set the standards of what it takes to be at Juventus, what we're looking for and everything. And right now, for me, that needs to start above Max. While everybody puts it on Max, it needs to come above from the top. You know, like when we had the disasters in Champions League, like it was Agnelli that addressed everybody. And he didn't have the coach standing next to him. The coach was sitting amongst the players and all the other employees. You know, like that's what we need. Like people need to understand what it means to, you know, don the shirt and don the stripes. And that's where I think the value is in having those guys around, because that really needs to be established from the top, and it needs to be, everyone below needs to be accountable for themselves in meeting those standards. And right now, I think there's just a little bit of a disconnect in terms of the standards. What are they? Like, what it feels like, and this is why another big reason I'd like to see change, and it will play into the roster and Mercato, is I feel like there's a lot of complacency around this current Juventus. And a lot of it has to do with the business decisions that have been made with players, the wages, etc., and the production that they've been given, and just this general lack of accountability and just a lot of excuses. And Juve's never been a team to make excuses. And when you have guys like that, you get the no excuses attitude, because we always heard Buffon talk about, we don't need to look at anybody else but ourselves. We don't need to talk about refs. We don't need to talk about the other team and what they're doing. We need to look in-house. Del Piero, always the same thing. We don't need to show anybody weakness. We need to clean up what's going on in our house. And I think that's kind of getting lost and is turning into excuses FC, and I don't like it. You know, so that is the big value for me in bringing those characters back, is establishing this culture that I think we need to get back to.
Now it's a few years back, but no one could see the pandemic. But you talk about the Cristiano Ronaldo deal. We got him. We grow enormously on social medias and stuff. And you told me before that you see Ronaldo Juventus shirt in Canada and such. What do you think about the Ronaldo deal in whole?
Just wrong time.
Yeah.
Wrong time, man. Like it's sad because everybody's been talking about it now, obviously with the latest court ruling there,
Yeah.
but nobody goes back at that point in time without hindsight and says, no, we shouldn't grab Ronaldo. Although there were a few out there that said, there's something weird about this if Marotta is against it or whatnot. There were a few that questioned it, but I'm still at the belief that on the pitch and where we were kind of continuously getting in Champions League, what we were doing in the league, you make that deal all the time, and twice on Sunday. Like you just, and it's sad that everything that unfolded takes one of the best players to ever play the game.
Yeah.
And it stains this period with our club, because it should be like an awesome moment that like one of the best to ever do it chose Juventus, wanted to come to Juventus, and we found a deal with him. And he was the fastest to reach 100 goals for Juventus. Like he did his job. But what we didn't know, and we're definitely not prepared for, that we found out after the fact, was that there is a Ronaldo tax. And we started to see that leak through the team.
Yeah.
And it was something as simple as free kicks, where you have great percentages in Pjanic, Dybala, and not getting to even to everything was around him. And it felt wrong. And again, going back to the collective, going back to our spine, going back to who Juventus always historically was, that no individual is bigger than the club and the group. It felt like we were kind of at this conflict.
Yeah.
Where it was like, oh my God, like this is like Ronaldo mania, but what's actually happening? And you don't get the full effects of that until he leaves.
Yeah.
And then it's completely broken and you see what happened.
Yeah.
And there have been players, and I've caught this from several, and one of the players, plays in Canada, so you guys can all kind of figure that one out, whatnot, but he said the locker room was never the same.
Yeah. And
it had to do a lot with the treatment, because it wasn't on the same level for everybody, and that ultimately hurts you.
Yeah.
When you're talking about culture and setting standards. So yeah, there was a Ronaldo tax that I just don't think we were equipped for. And financially, we definitely weren't equipped, because we could never bolster the side strong enough to have him on. So you just got into this spinning wheel. It felt like we should have bailed on it earlier and just said, okay, now we got to transition out of this. It didn't work. It felt like an all-in moment. Like, we're going to get after, we're going to go. But when it didn't work, it's like, okay, we need to bail. We need to bail and rebuild, because the financial issues are probably going to hurt. In the end, yeah, hindsight, I don't think in hindsight anybody can say, yeah, I'd still go back and do that. No, not in hindsight. But at that moment, it was incredibly surreal. I remember it like yesterday. It was incredible. But unfortunately for us, yeah, everything that unfolded afterwards has been bad, and we're still feeling the effects. But COVID had a big part in it. And then Yeli still says, give me Ronaldo every time without COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, we were always running in the red financially, which was like, this thing. And now, sometimes you need something like that to kind of give you a kick to snap out of it, so to speak. And now we're looking at a completely different reshaped business model that seems to go back to the way we were operating before we lost track. So everything happens for a reason, It was great having him around, though. He did his job and then some. It sucks how it all ended up in the end.
Yeah, over 100 goals for 3 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for him and his performance-wise, it was incredible. And knowing the fact that you could score out of nothing at any given time, it was incredible, man. It was incredible. Yeah.
And talking about the Calcio Mercato, I have a follow-up question from Omer episode.
Okay.
Leon Goretzka.
Goretzka, yeah. For me, it's a pass.
Yeah.
It's a pass on Goretzka. There would have been a time, unless he brings the training regiment there and we all get jacked or whatnot, sign me up. But no, yeah, I'm a no on Goretzka. I've started to think about this, and with the Anderson deal kind of falling through, Juve's trying to hit a zero mercato, and you're not going to do that without working free agency. If we look at the forwards, like Anderson, I wasn't big on, but as a depth option, would have been solid, I think. Consistent numbers, would have been good for depth, multiple competitions. But now it's really, really thin for forwards in the free agency pool. And now I've started to shift my focus into maybe we go less expensive in the midfield and spend to bolster the attack and, defense, because I'm opening myself up to the potential of Jorginho or even a Luis Alberto. Like Jorginho, a couple seasons, you know what? Bridge the gap for us, save us money, bring in a Samardzic or a Goodmanson as well. Yeah. And that'll go a long way for me in the midfield. And then let's look at spending up top, and let's look at bolstering defense as well. We are going to have to sacrifice somebody. Somebody's going to have to fuel this mercado. And I'm starting to have a hunch that it's Bremer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really starting to feel like he's going to be the one that's actually moved. And again, just a lot of smoke around Sule and this distance that's always been there, but maybe the Anderson move kind of shuts that down.
Yeah.
And he comes in and can play a part in the roles in attacking. But I feel like Bremer's going to be the one that fuels this one. That release clause on the backside of it, a potential shift to a 4-man back line. I just have a feeling that they're going to move him. And I think he's going to be sought after. It's going to come down to if the team that comes in for him is one that he's willing to go to.
And if Bremer is leaving with or without Thiago Motta, do you think we're going to take in Riccardo Calafiori?
I think Calafiori is, for sure a legitimate target that Juve is looking at. I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of the counterparts that are being listed that Juve could include and the price tag. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I think Calafiori is definitely on the list, and I think they are definitely going to push for Hermoso, who's on a free. Yeah. And that could be the two that you see come in. There's also these outside guys that are very, very cheap. So if you land Calafiori and you bring in a Lacroix, or you bring in, I can't recall the other gentleman, Todibo. Yeah. If you bring in one of those guys with Calafiori, and have, some money seemingly left over to help with this zero mercado, it makes sense. Is it as strong? Well, something's got to give. We could arguably say, well, maybe we get a little bit stronger in the midfield. We take a little bit of hit on the back line, but we get stronger in the midfield and bolster the attack a bit. Something's got to give. Yeah. We can't have our cake and eat it too. We need the money. Yeah.
And if we move up to the midfield, as you said, Pogba is gone. We got Fagioli back at the last game against Monza this season. McKennie could leave if he don't extend. Rabiot could leave as bossman. Do you think it's enough to take in, like you said, Jorginho and Samardzic, or do you think we're gonna get any more players?
I don't think so. I think we're probably looking at four pickups, maybe four, maybe five,
Yeah.
depending on deals, depending on structures, depending what it takes to get the deals done. Um, is it going to be enough? The approach and play is going to be everything, because until we really get cleaned up, we're going to be reliant on getting the most out of who we have. But I would be satisfied with, I think a Jorginho gives you options in the midfield. It opens up a lot of options for us, because I believe he can go two-man pivot next to Locatelli. I believe Locatelli could also move over to the side of Jorginho, like they did with the Azzurri in that Euros run. Fagioli comes into the mix.
Yeah.
You have McKennie. I would renew McKennie.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's in the wrong to ask for more money when you've signed Jallo, who hasn't played a minute, that makes more than him currently.
Yeah.
You have Alexandro making like $6 million more than him, who's a rotational piece. All right. So he's well within his rights at 10 assists this season to ask for a little bit more.
Yeah.
I would renew him. Rabiot, I would let walk personally.
Yeah.
And I think for the payout, it just doesn't make sense. For what he's making contractually, I don't see it being on par for what we get. So if we're looking at midfield, essentially Barnechea, I'd like to see him come in and, add a rotational piece. If we're looking at a midfield potentially next season, say we get Locatelli, you got Fagioli coming back, you get McKennie, say you bring in Samardzic, and you have Jorginho, maybe Barnechea.
Yeah.
If you could swing a Goodmanson, oh my God, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because Goodmanson gives you flexibility as well, because he can play as a forward. He could play as an advanced mid. It's very, very interesting. And I think it would be enough. It's just about getting more for less type of thing. I just think we're very one-dimensional in the midfield right now. And I think it's just about figuring that out. So getting a guy that is known, very, very well known, to understand that role in the heart of the midfield, like Jorginho, I think goes a long way overall to the group. And I believe Locatelli he's a good midfielder.
Yeah.
I just think he's not the guy in a midfield. And if you take that weight off him, I think you start to see him breathe a little easier and play a little more relaxed, personally.
Fabio Meretti, do you want him still in the mix, or do you think he should go out on loan?
I'd like to see him on a loan, but I'm not opposed to incorporating him in a deal depending on who it brings us.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel with Meretti. I would ultimately like to see him get a loan at somewhere that's not Juventus and see, because I think there's an incredible amount of talent and potential there. It just sadly hasn't worked for us, but he's also had a lot of caps. That's why I'm like, man, you know what? Depending on the deal, I could be open to it.
And on the wings, we got Chiesa, we got Solé, we got Ealing Jr., we got Kostic, we got Andrea Cambiaso, we got Villa, who's going to stay and who's going to leave.
Yeah. For me, Cambiaso is an absolute beauty. I'm a big fan of Cambiaso. The versatility is incredible. I've been screaming to get him in the middle of the park to help the creation as of late, because you can see he can play anywhere and helps out a lot. So Cambiaso is a no-brainer for me. He's probably on the untouchable list for me. Weah, it might be a little too harsh right now to maybe make that call, and he is versatile. He can play left side, right side, and can play up as a winger. I probably would keep him still. Kostic we can move. I don't know what happened there, because I was overall pretty happy with him last season. Overall, I did think he was one-dimensional last season, but still had a lot more say offensively than he has this season. So I'm not really sure there, but it's at a point where I would be okay moving him. Ealing Jr., I'm okay moving him if it's going to fund, strengthening and be a better pickup in the end. I'm okay selling him too. Sule, I've always said I would sell. I would sell and fund the Mercado with that pure profit, because I think we can get 40 to 45 million euro for him. We should, based on the current market and everything. But again, it's going to come down to what the options are in behind Sule, because if all of a sudden it's very, very weak, like I said, in the free agency pool, there's nobody that really excites me as a main go-to winger. So it depends on who we would be purchasing and everything. And I think ultimately the whole Mercado is going to come down to what offers Juventus sees, because now we are getting rumors of Vlahovic having interest from, I believe it was Arsenal. And you're getting the Bremer rumors, more Prem clubs. I think ultimate Chiesa, we're hearing about Chiesa. I feel the majority of the roster is for sale.
Yeah.
And Juve I don't think has a set plan right now what they're going to do. It's just going to be wait and see what comes in and what your options are in the aftermath of set move. So I feel like it could go in a very different direction. Rather than Sule being the one to fund the Mercado, could easily be Bremer.
And if you have to choose between Chiesa and Vlahovic, who's staying?
Depends on who comes in the backside, because like if we can pick up like a Xerxes that I believe goes a long way in terms of your overall play, then I might pull the plug there. But Chiesa has been very underwhelming, and I don't think it's solely because of the play. And I've seen some personal things that have bothered me in terms of attitude and behavior that I don't really like, regardless of play, regardless of what's going on. Vlahovic has shown me a lot in 2024 in terms of attitude and everything like that. Yeah, does he have his big chances missed? Yeah, but a lot of the guys that score a lot of goals and get the most chances get a lot of big chances missed to their name too. I'd probably keep Vlahovic overall.
Yeah.
But it's a tough call, and like I said, it depends what's on the flip side there. And if Chiesa goes off in Euros, I could change my mind like that and say, well, you know what? Yeah, no, he's definitely still got it. Let's keep rolling. So it's a tough call there.
And the two backups, Arek Milik and Moise Kean.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight answer.
Yeah, it's if we can, we don't need much to make some capital with Milik. I still say in the long run, it was the right decision to pick him up on that cheap based on where we were and everything. It's just this season has been really, really bad on his account. And Moise Kean, I mean, okay, hard done by in one game with some goals called back, but no contributions. We should definitely look to strengthen and get strength on it, especially being in multiple competitions again.
I want to finish with an attacking player, but I want to know your opinion of the situation with the goalies. You with Szczesny, Perin, and Pinsogli. Are you satisfied with that trio, or do you want to change? Put in a younger goalie right now?
I think we do need to plan for it, and it's tough to say if this is the year to do it, because if Szczesny doesn't renew, we still have Perin for a year beyond, and maybe at that point you bring in your next young guy to go beyond Perin, so you'd have a year to kind of get into the mix and then go from there. So I do ultimately feel, we need the contingency plan very, very soon, but it really depends on that renewal with Szczesny. And if he doesn't renew, I'd probably look and see, because I bet you there's still teams that would love to add him that could use a keeper of his caliber and whatnot. So, it could very well turn into a summer where we go after that contingency plan there, but we should be looking at it, I think. Pinsolio is fantastic, but I mean, one game a season is not a tough task, so the third doesn't really matter to us, but Perin and Szczesny, a decision has to be made, and we do have to look long term.
And the maybe future number 10 Keenan Gillis, do you give him the number 10 and do you extend again?
I'm starting, I've always believed that you should earn it. You should earn it. And I always looked at it as like this respect thing to the guys that wore it before. But then when Alessandro Del Piero said, yeah, they should give him the 10, it kind of was like, all right, well, if I'm thinking I wouldn't do it because it's a disrespect to you, and you're saying it's cool, you're cool with it, well, then maybe I should be cool with it too, But there was something that came out from all this saying that there's rumors saying that Yildiz has potentially asked for it in the negotiations.
Oh.
And fans have kind of felt on both sides of it. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts because some fans say, well, that makes me think a little less of him trying to throw that into negotiations rather than be given it. But there's the other side that say that's pretty ballsy of a 19-year-old to come out and say, hey, I want the 10 at this club, whatnot. I want to know kind of like how you feel about it and how you see it.
Yeah, I think the same as you inherit that number, but when you gave it to Dybala, but when you gave it to Pogba, I felt a little bit that was not the number for him. He had number 6. You should stay with number 6. But when you gave it to him, I don't think that the number meant that much anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more marketing.
Yeah, exactly. And when you told me this one that Keenan Gillis want to negotiate for it in the new contract, I don't see it as ballsy. I see it a little bit disrespectful, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's tough, and fans are on kind of both sides. They're saying, well, that's, I don't really like him just asking for it, trying to throw it in negotiations. And others say that's pretty ballsy of it. I'm kind of leading to believe that it is a little bit brave because that's a tough, it means a lot. It should mean a lot at the club. But you're right, because Pogba sets this precedence against it that it's willy-nilly, and if he's going to get it, well, sure, I want it. Yeah. I like the number 10 and I want to wear it because of Del Piero and everything. It's and then there's the marketing side of it. Everything I'm hearing is that Keenan Yildiz is like the top selling kit right now for Juventus.
Yeah.
For me, even as a marketing ploy, leave it alone then. Yeah. Let him sell the 15 and let this 10 thing explode if you leave it vacant for a little period of time, right? Yeah. Rather than jump on it initially, let it build up and, a year of him being a starter. And then it's like, you know what? Now he gets a 10. I remember, and while I was saying that, if Del Piero's okay with it, yeah, we should do it. I do also remember having the same stance with Fagioli when everybody was quick to say, give him the 10, give Fagioli the 10. Well, how would that have looked after all of this and everything that went down this season and everything? That's why I say, I still ultimately in my gut almost feel like let things happen naturally. Yeah. Don't force anything, but we live in a day and age. Everything has to be now, and it's like, sometimes it's like, just pump the brakes. Let's let it just happen. Let's see, that we don't need everything right this second. Let's wait and see and let him naturally collect and retain that 10 if he is truly the one. And I think that would be a more beautiful story overall. And I think it would actually mean more to the fans and to the player to have you actually receive it and gain it and not just be like, hey, we want to slap this on you, take a bunch of photos, plaster it everywhere and sell even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about we're living in an era with TikToks. You have you see it in 10-15 seconds. I remember Andrea Angeli talking about you can buy like the last 10-15 minutes of the game. I'm allergic to that stuff. I want the more traditional, and like you said, to make it more natural, make it a vacancy of the number for like a season, and then see who could inherit it. It's more a romantic view for me.
Yeah, it's just it's a little bit of a touch to the past and everything like that. And I think it's important to kind of keep some things traditional instead of
Yeah,
just altering absolutely everything and losing sight somewhat of how things were before and everything. It's very, very important to never forget, who you are, where you came from and everything like that. And, you know, I from the badge, you know,
yeah,
were seemingly unrecognizable in so many
yeah,
facets. Let's keep some things a little bit traditional and still have that touch to the past. That's what I would ultimately like to see. We don't have to make a full shift focus because of trends and everything like that and what people are doing. And that's why I think, again, culture, all this, we have some work to do, right? And redefining, reinventing ourselves and seemingly doing it on the fly, but also without stability.
yeah,
And that's what has to happen first and foremost. Giuntoli, Scanavino, Ferrara, we don't really know what's going to happen there with them. They do seem like maybe temporary
yeah, yeah,
guys before some bigger names come in and everything. But one way or another, we do need to establish some stability to set those standards and build that culture. So without stability up at the top, you're not going to do it. So right now, all of that is being redefined. But I'm very much seemingly in the same frame of mind as you, as some of the traditional aspects are nice
yeah,
because we are a historic club, you know, and I think it's important to still have some of that while you still move in a modern direction,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. Now I'm going to let you go. You have a trip to go to, and you have done. It was great talking to you, and I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure. Yeah, again, all the support out of Sweden is tremendous and very, very often in the top 5 ranks for us
Yeah,
in terms of countries that we get support on a monthly scale. So, yeah, it's great. And like I said, thank you so much for the invite. And I look forward to hosting you on our end as well at
yeah,
some point.
yeah, and I
Right.
have to
So
work on my English anymore. So it's great to have this is like my 6th or 7th international episode. So I'm working on it, and now I go into to learn more Italian too. So maybe an Italian episode in a few months.
oh, beautiful, beautiful. That's great. No, your English is fantastic. It was great. And I really enjoyed this discussion. It was awesome. You do a fantastic job. And just keep going, keep grinding. I love the content, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and thank you a lot for this. This was a pleasure for me.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure is all mine.
Have a good one and have a good trip.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Stop it there.